I'm gonna turn this down because it's all around.
Just let us know when you're ready for it to get going. I used this for the first time, just the other meeting, I'm like, oh, it says gavel. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's stand and do pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you all for attending this year's first budget meeting. We usually have, for those that are new, what we'll typically kick off with is we will elect a budget chairperson. Typically, this is someone that's not on council. That allows the budget committee to kind of have the gavel, lead through the meeting, etc. I do appreciate those that have volunteered to be on the budget committee and continue to be on the budget committee. I think that the type of civic engagement here, especially taking a look at how we do the budget, areas that we need to cut, areas that we need to refine. Having you all volunteer really makes the difference. We don't want it just to be city staff and city council doing it. That's where the importance of the budget committee really comes in, and the external volunteers on these seats. We were hoping to have a full staff this time, but the last one we appointed was unable to attend as well and or commit to it. So we do have one vacant seat this time, and I don't see Maureen, so I guess we're down one. But other than that, we're just going to continue moving forward. So with that, first one, go ahead.
Can we do a round of introductions for all the staff? No.
So we start with staff and go this way.
Yeah, I'm Sean White, the city administrator for Hubbard.
Don Parisi, your police chief.
Julie Hudson, administrative assistant court clerk. Becky Noggle, director of admin recorder.
John Nash, I'm a resident about 8 years and I own a pest control company.
Jim Young, I'm currently on city council. I've been a resident for approximately 27, almost 28 years now. And been very involved in the city for the last 20 some odd years. And so that's who I am, and that's what I did.
Mike Krebs, Public Works Superintendent, City of. My name is Patrick Zotti. I live on 3rd Street. We've been here about 8 years this year. I'm the service manager for Kubota Tractor here in town.
Nice.
Joseph Steiniger, City Council, it's my second year. And I was Budget Committee 1 year prior to that. City Council.
Renee Hagee, I've lived in Hubbard since 1989, and I'm on the budget committee.
Thank you.
Charles Rosticell, mayor, lived in Hubbard for almost 21 years now. Before that in Aurora, and I grew up elsewhere. I don't like to mention California. Other than that, just appreciate everyone's volunteering, quite honestly.
James Aldridge, council president, been here a long time.
With that, let's move on. First order of business then would be to elect a budget committee chair. Do we have a nomination or someone who would like to volunteer? Renee was last year. I don't know if she wants to redo it again.
Was I?
No,
Or is it Maureen last year? It was Maureen last year.
but since she's experienced.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, we have a nomination and we have a second.
Fine.
All those in favor of appointing Renee, budget chair committee, budget chair, whatever, say aye. Aye. Congratulations.
No.
Just leave the stretch. It's easy as that.
Okay, so now that we have this out of the way,
what we're gonna do next,
Mhm.
it's pretty straight. We're just gonna say, let's go ahead and receive the budget message and we'll hand it over to Sean.
Just pick up the next one. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna receive the budget message, overview of each department and, every pertinent department head, so, who starts?
We'll start with the administrator.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Again, Sean Wade, City Administrator for the City of Hubbard. My budget message and the actual review of the budget are all gonna be kind of combined into one to kind of speed up the process a little bit. And also to eliminate some redundancy, so you're not hearing the same information for an hour and a half. So everyone can see the PowerPoint, okay? All right, so in April, we had a brief budget training for the community budget committee members. And we covered the role and responsibilities of the budget committee and why the process requires that community members be a part of the budget process. It encourages public participation and involvement. It also promotes transparency and ensures that a community voice is part of the budget development process. And the committee reviews the proposed budget, makes revisions and recommendations and questions. This actually helps staff create a budget that hopefully is error-free, but also well understood by not just the budget committee, but the community that the budget supports. As a reminder, if there are any questions about the budget process from the media or public, the budget committee chair is the only person that may respond on behalf of the budget committee. Once the budget is approved and moved to city council, at that point, then it is the mayor and city council that can speak to the budget. But during that time frame, so this, once approved, the budget will go June 11th to the city council. So there's a couple week period where
All on you.
no pressure.
Gee, thanks, guys.
Something you would have known beforehand.
I think I read a brand.
So before we dive in, there's a couple of housekeeping items that I would like to address. There are 2 errors on the budget document that I found, and there might be a few more typos. So on the budget message itself, which is the letter that actually starts out the budget document on page 4, line 7, where it starts out, for example, staff budgeted conservatively for court revenue as it is unclear how much review will be received. It should have said revenue, not review. Little typo there. And then on the actual budget document itself, where we go into the numbers, there is a section in there that's identified as requirement by fund dash program.
What page is that?
So that will be page. Yeah. And so under, yeah, that's right. Under water construction, we received, an allocation from the state legislature of 1.1 million. $1 million of that went into the sewer construction fund. 100,000 went into the water construction fund. For some reason in the roll-up, it did not get captured here. So the program section of this budget document is actually $100,000 short, but everywhere else in the budget document, it is accurate. So if you look at that page compared to all the other pages, it's going to be off by $100,000. And I will make sure that that's corrected by the time we get to the approved budget for council. Any questions on that part? Okay. This presentation will walk through my budget message and the considerations that were taken in developing the proposed budget. Please note that there was a decision made during the city council meeting last night, Tuesday night, regarding the Community Prosperity Initiative Program grant from Marion County that has not been included in the proposed budget. However, that will be reflected in the approved budget that goes to council. What that decision was to accept a 60,000 lump sum grant from Marion County for Community Prosperity Initiative. It's a grant that we've received year over year over the last 3 years. They're extending that out. We're going to be dedicating this to the sidewalk program, and it will be budgeted in the street construction. So the total resources for fiscal year 25 is 16.15 million, which matches the total requirements of 16.15 million. The beginning fund balance for all funds is 8.04 million, of which 1.9 million is general fund. And the beginning fund balance, particularly in the general fund, is very important because we use that beginning fund balance to pay expenses until we receive property tax in mid to late November. The city is comprised of 3 departments: the administration department, police department, and public works department. Each of the department heads will briefly speak to the functions of their departments. And with that, I will turn it over to Director Hubbard for her presentation of the administration.
Okay, I'm just gonna go right through what I prepared here. The general fund is the largest, most complex fund of the city. The general fund accounts for all revenues and expenditures of the city which are not accounted for in other funds. The general fund is used to pay for the day-to-day operations of the city government. These operations include administration, the police department, the municipal court, the parks department, and community development activities. The divisions that I have oversight include the city administration, municipal court, city council, and community development. The administration department, the Hubbard Administration Department is responsible for the administrative functions of all aspects of current city services, ranging from provisions of water and sewer to public safety, and is generally the first point of contact for people seeking the city services and/or any information. The administration provides critical background support for all sections of the city government. Examples of these services include personnel, payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, record keeping, election processing, land use planning, and general management of services to the public. The City of Hubbard's administrative department staff consists of the city administrator, director of administration, city recorder, administrative assistant, court clerk, and administrative support assistant. The staff is part of the overall City Hall personnel, which includes the Hubbard Police Department. The municipal court typically meets once every month in the City Hall council chambers. The court processes traffic violations and city ordinance violations, including but not limited to dogs at large and excessive noise complaints. Judicial services are provided by Lori Kukulis on a contractual basis. This year, there will be an increase in the traffic court activities associated with the City of Donald Policing Services contract. There will also be an increase in the processing of the utility bills due to the implementation of billing monthly. Since we are not sure of the revenue that will be generated from conducting traffic court for the City of Donald, my concerns are staffing levels from holding municipal court once a month to potentially twice a month, as well as the additional monthly utility billing process instead of every other month. In the council division, the city council functions within the city is to enact the city code throughout the passage of ordinances and to help build a common vision for Hubbard through creative and representative municipal policy making. The city council also helps to connect the community and the city government, integrating the voices of the citizens into the creation of the policy. The city council consists of the mayor and 4 councilors. The budgeted funds in this division are the same as in previous years, with an increase in professional services for legal fees, movies in the park, and historic pictures in City Hall. The Community Development Division is charged with land use and growth management functions within the city. These activities include issuance of building permits, acceptance of building plans, and applications and planning activities such as analysis of and control over land use variances, rezoning, special use permit issuance, and other land use functions. The City of Hubbard contracts for the land use planning services from the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments. Following review of land use applications by the consultant planner, the application may be heard by the City Planning Commission. The 5 members of the Planning Commission are appointed by the City Council. The City of Hubbard contracts with Marion County Public Works for building permit review, issuance, and enforcement. The Director of Administration, City Recorder, accepts building plans and related fees, and then after city review, the plans are sent to Marion County Building, who analyzes the structural plans to determine if they meet code. Following their review, the county issues a permit, sends it back to the Director of Administration, City Recorder, who distributes the permit to the applicant. The purpose of the Community Development Division in Hubbard is to help the city grow and develop while maintaining and improving the quality of life within the city. The main purpose behind the planning activities of Hubbard city government is to manage development of lands within the urban growth boundary surrounding Hubbard. We attempt to maximize the benefit the residents receive from new infrastructure, recreational facilities development, economic development, and other growth, while reducing the negative consequences that are sometimes associated with growth. We know that a valuable asset to the community is its small town character and strive to maintain that feeling while meeting the needs of the public. The improvement of the quality of life in Hubbard is of main concern to all those in the city government and the Community Development Division. One of the larger developments this year was the the Pacific Northwest Marble and Granite. Wow. Their business is currently located at 2850 Industrial Avenue, but they expanded their business to the undeveloped vacant 3.21 acre lot, which is now addressed as 2400 Industrial Avenue, located at the southwest part of the Industrial Avenue. They have constructed a 60,000 square foot building to house their marble and granite manufacturing, production, and wholesale business. They're estimated to complete their project in February of 2025. The City of Hubbard annexed an approximate 54.06 acres into the city limits, with 20.39 acres zoned as R3 high density residential and 3368 zone R3 medium density residential. On April 18th of 2023, the Planning Commission approved the Bear Creek Plan Unit Development Subdivision. The proposal included 321 dwelling units on 201 lots. The proposed housing type mix includes detached single-family homes, townhouses, duplex units, and apartments. The PUD proposes a total of 18 acres and 2 large open space tracts, which include sensitive resource areas, compacted gravel trails, paved trails, benches, and a developed public park with play structure and playfield. The application package includes plans for development of streets, water, sewer, and storm water infrastructure. Upon completion of this project, the city will receive property tax revenue, which will assist with the city's deficit in the projected years. However, that was not anticipated and forecasted in this fiscal 2024-25 proposed budget. As mentioned in the budget message, the projects for the IGA with Marion County's program called the Community Prosperity Initiative, the CPI, which Administrator Waite just mentioned, the City Council committed the funds to complete the G Street sidewalk over the railroad tracks in the amount of $45,000, the comprehensive plan update in the amount of $30,000, and last night at the council meeting, the council allocated the $60,000 to the sidewalk construction project. And that concludes my report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is,
Really helpful.
Go ahead.
is the, company that built, the, Grand Marble, the same one that's over by the gas station?
No,
Different company, competitor.
yes, they're, they're in Industrial Avenue currently. And they are, still in Industrial Avenue, but it just, I think. Mhm.
Quite a big use of that very building.
Entities.
I believe it's two separate.
Entities.
Yeah, they are. For the Marble King.
They're in Hubbard. This is good.
All right, any other questions for,
Or clarifications also. You can ask clarification.
okay?
Okay.
Bruce?
Well, thank you very much. As I prepare to talk about this budget and whatnot, I just want to start off by recognizing that, as most of you may know, this week is actually National Police Week. So I just wanted to take a minute and recognize all of those who have served in this very noble profession and paid the ultimate sacrifice, and those who continue to dedicate their lives to the service of others and helping to keep the community and public safe. So I just wanted to point that out. It is certainly a privilege to be your chief of police. I'm so excited to be here since February 5th of this year. And I just wanted to highlight and describe some of the functions of your Hubbard Police Department, as well as outline the key roles and responsibilities of your police department to kind of help establish and maintain public safety, community trust, as well as partnerships as well. And so I've kind of categorized 7 different things that I just kind of wanted to touch on for you all to describe what it is your police department does and what have you. Law enforcement services will be one that we'll discuss. A second is public safety. The third is crime prevention and education. The fourth is support and services. Number 5, investigation and forensics. Number 6, community relations and trust building. And number 7, administrative duties. So first, law enforcement services, I think most probably know the fundamental role of a police department is to enforce local and state laws, which includes patrolling, trying to deter and detect crime or criminal activity before it happens, as it's happening, or just after it's occurred. Responding to incidences, alarms, conducting investigations, and of course, apprehending those who are responsible for committing said crimes and whatnot, and making sure they're held accountable and what have you. Secondly, public safety. We always want to ensure the safety of our Hubbard community, which is our core function and what we do. This involves traffic management is one of the things. We do that through accessing grants as well from the state, which provides extra dollars to enforce some of those traffic laws and crimes and whatnot. So, of course, crowd control if there was ever a need during public events, coordinating during natural disasters, emergencies to ensure public safety and order is held. Crime prevention and education. We as a police department work proactively to prevent crime. That's the goal, actually. We would rather do that than ever see it occur in the first place. And we do that through community engagement initiatives, such as neighborhood watch programs, public education forums on safety, and collaboration with our North Marion schools, for example, to create a safe environment there as well for our children and faculty and all that good stuff who are learning. Number 4, support and services. This includes providing assistance to victims of crime, offering emergency services when needed, and other community support services such as conducting safety audits for businesses and residences on how they can better safeguard their properties and to prevent from even becoming a victim in the first place. Perhaps labeling some of their most important items, guns, serial numbers, owner applied numbers, things of that nature as well. Number 5, investigation and forensics. Handling investigations into criminal activities, gathering evidence, and employing forensic analysis to solve crimes and support the prosecution of those offenders. And we do that with other law enforcement partners as well, such as the Oregon State Police Crime Lab, with respect to the analysis of that forensic evidence and whatnot. So those are really important relationships. We also work closely with the LEAD program. This is LEAD stands for Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion program, which is really to help identify low-level criminal offenders who may be committing some of those smaller, like theft crimes and or excuse me, drug crimes that are like involving possession and what have you. We try to, and we work with Marion County's LEAD program to try to divert some of those low-level criminal offenders into programs that can actually make them more productive members of society and get them resources and hopefully get them clean and sober as well, rather than just, you know, arresting them, charging them with the crime and taking them to jail or whatnot. So we realize there's no way we're going to arrest our way out of any one particular problem. So we are committed to that too. And that's right in line with House Bill 4002 as well, which was just resolved in the short sessions also. Number 6, community relations and trust building, engaging with our community to build trust and foster relationships through our outreach programs, town hall meetings, and offer participation in community events. This is so important as we understand public safety itself isn't just the responsibility of any one police department throughout the nation. It really does take a whole community effort to make sure that, you know, the community is safe and public safety is at the forefront of everybody's, you know, initiatives and stuff. So I would like to point out too, on that note, that Hubbard has always really had a great history of being kind of an all-inclusive community, to where the community is so supportive of their police department, and the police department is so supportive of the community as well. It's really made Hubbard such a great place to live and raise families and work and whatnot as well. So I think that goes to show the strong relationship throughout, you know, the years. And number 7, administrative duties here. It includes maintaining police records, managing departmental resources, training personnel, ensuring all operations comply with the current legal and ethical standards. And your Hubbard Police Department actually is an accredited agency, which is very important. We focus on best practices and complying with industry standards. We always make sure that we have systems in place that show we are a well-functioning, competent, and capable department, which we are. We have a great staff who are dedicated to serving the community and really enjoy it. So I really appreciate being able to speak about how the budget really impacts, you know, the police department and the services we provide. I would just like to talk about the adequate funding that ensures the police force is well-equipped, well-trained, and capable of responding effectively to community needs, which in turn supports crime reduction and enhances public safety. Additionally, investing in advanced technologies and community outreach programs can improve efficiency and community relations, ultimately contributing to a safe, more connected community as well. So that's something.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Call me Mr. Question.
Let's do it.
Reserve program, what's your
Yeah.
thoughts on reserve programs on enhancing the community? And when I was reading this, I read the whole thing. The impression that I got was that revenue coming in can be questionable as the years go by. And perhaps one way to save some money for the community would be to implement a reserve program. That's what I have to do.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's actually one we're constantly thinking of and talking about as well. In fact, I just talked with Sergeant Anderson about it today as well. We have a couple folks that are interested in being reserves with the Hubbard Police Department, which is exciting. There would be a cost still involved with that, of course, equipment related to where we would have to pay for their uniforms, firearms, things of that nature, training also. But you're right, for the most part, when they patrol, they would be volunteering. It is quite a progress or process, I should say, to get to like a solo status to where any one particular reserve could actually take a shift and work by themselves, although it is something that's done. And I totally support a reserve program. I was one, and I think they're very beneficial. And moving forward, we're going to look at trying to do that as well.
Is there a reserve academy available?
You know, that's a great question. Just last year, the MVRT Academy, which was for this particular area, if you will, they did not have one. They kind of shut it down, if you will, because just like with recruiting and trying to find people who want to come and be full-time police officers, there's been the same challenge to even find folks that want to come and be a reserve and volunteer their time and do it like on a part-time basis. But like I say, I know a couple of people who are actually inquiring about Hubbard starting up a reserve program again, which would be very beneficial and something that we are interested in doing also. So
Yeah, we used to have one some time ago.
yes, for sure. In fact, Councilor Autrich was
21 years.
yes, yep.
I enjoyed it, but times have changed. You know, it's
Yeah.
not it wasn't as conducive for reserves. That's why a lot of agencies had to scrap the program in the last
That's unfortunate.
seven.
It is.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Chief.
Yes, sir.
So there are two different training facilities, two academies, one for regular police officers and one for just reserve.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's all the same material, if you will. The Reserve Academy has to abide by the state standards and whatnot.
If the reserve academy is closed, will they then go to the police academy?
Most of the time they're in the evenings. They're two nights a week for 7 months,
Got it.
as opposed to the
16 weeks.
16 weeks at the Department of Public Standards.
That's right.
And so
Yep.
you have to be committed as a reserve officer to get through that. And then you go through the field training, which in Hubbard, we've had a lot of new officers. So it would have been difficult to get a reserve through the same field training as we're trying to get new officers through. And the fire department has the same issues. People are becoming volunteers because they can't find enough full-time firefighters to take the roles. So it's hard to look for, I mean, it's great if you find somebody who's wanting to be a reserve, not do this full-time. And that might be where we're at. It's been probably 6 or 7 years since we've had the reserves, and we could have built up people in the community that want to come back and do it. So I do see Chief Parisi probably bringing that on in the next few years, but it's not an overnight. Get the bike patrol back, and we used to ride police bikes around town and interact with the kids that way. And it was really a great program.
What about a ride-along program?
So we do have one, absolutely, and we encourage it. In fact, as part of a community event, one of the things we plan on doing as a police department and city is do an open house, and we want to invite people to come and tour the police department to actually walk through it and see what it is, where it is we work and serve them from, and then also encourage them to do ride-alongs and stuff like that as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, a couple of questions. I said accredited, academy. Accredited through who? So over the years, there's been various accreditations that we've brought forth, and the police department has met these various accreditations. So tell me about your current accreditation and what the process. Who is it who you're accrediting through? Is it some state agency? Is it some police conglomerate agency, or what's going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for bringing it up. So we are actually accredited through a state agency called the Northwest Accreditation Alliance. Formerly was the Oregon Accreditation Alliance, but they changed it to Northwest because they also accredit some agencies, police and dispatch centers in Alaska as well. So, but yeah, it's here through the state. It's there are 104 different standards that we have to show proof and compliance in. We have to reaccredit every 3 years, and it's.
So we're in our third year now and we're reaccredited.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
Yeah, the first time we went through it was with Chief Rash.
That's right.
A few years after he joined. That was one of his big pushes is to professionalize the department and get that accreditation. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
Remember working through various, previously, Dave Dryden and then I caught on the tail of the Chief Rash. And so I just kind of curious, for there. And then when it comes to the reserves, I'm a while back, we had a pretty good reserve program. We had half a dozen officers somewhere in there, 30 over the time, as a reserve program. So when the reserve program comes in and you're working on that, oriented towards, high school, 18 or older, or junior officers or something like that. So we take a look at that aspect as well.
I really,
I understand there's probably more city council situation questions rather than budget committee situations, but I just kind of throwing that out there as a budgeting possibility. So.
yeah, I think what you're referring to there would be referred to as like a cadet explorer program, if you will. And I love that program. I am where I am today due to a big part of that. I started as a police cadet when I was 14. It's affiliated with the scouting as well, and it's a great way for law enforcement and our youth to connect and really get a firsthand insight to the career field as well, and that firsthand experience as well by going on ride-alongs, wearing a uniform, practicing radio procedures, learning how to work the computer in the car. And these cadets play a very valuable role as well because we can use them in a limited basis, obviously, non-priority or non-threatening type situations such as traffic control or, being an extra set of eyes and ears at community events for us, for example.
Code enforcement.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that might be,
It's more like, I think of the Hot Fest,
There you
the parade, that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So-
We have used code enforcement in the past, so they told me to cut my trees once. Really nice kid.
So this kind of a thought in there. I don't know what the compensation would be for those situations and uniform and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But,
Normally, they're not
Just kind of
compensated.
something they kind of think about in the budget
Yeah,
and kind of grow that direction. So that's my 2 cents worth for right now.
I have another
you
question.
bet.
With Donald coming on board, are we going to have enough officers for Hubbard? With what is happening here, I mean, it seems like our crime is getting a little bit worse. So with having people go to Donald, that's gonna leave us exposed maybe a little bit. So are you looking to recruit? And is that going to be in the budget?
Yeah, so good question. We won't leave Hubbard exposed to go to Donald. We plan on covering those shifts to make sure Hubbard's covered first will be our priority. We feel like we're going to be able to do that with no problem. We're going to be fully staffed as well by the end of this month. We're really excited on May 28th. We're actually hiring a certified officer that's coming from a different department, chose to come and further his career here at Hubbard, but bringing 16 years of experience. And so we're really excited and about that in the future as well. It looks very promising as well towards further recruitment opportunities if we need to as we grow.
It was noted last month that the police department is changing a little bit. In the past, they've gone out and said, hey, come work for us, young guys. But young guys come and within 2-3 years, they're gone. They're to a bigger department. Where there are people that go to bigger departments and think, this isn't for me. I want the small hometown. And maybe if they're already certified, we get them here. They fit much better into the smaller departments where they can interact with people. So that is kind of what
And that makes much more sense. than the
Chief
young guy who
Parisi had
wants to
brought to the
further his
table.
career and go to
Exactly.
the big time.
Uh-huh.
Well, this is kind of a segue into my question that should have passed. Julie, when you were making the presentation, you asked if anyone had questions. I'm frantically looking through here and I found it. Here it is right here.
It's really a Vicky. I think it's Vicky. Oh, I got Vicky was just gonna.
She's got yours, right?
So the city of Donald, traffic court activity, is that or could it be a revenue liability? Is the value of that service a liability to the revenue of Hubbard?
So I could actually answer that. So,
Costing more than it's worth.
it won't cost us more than it's worth. We're gonna generate more revenue. The liability piece of it, so our officers are all about community policing first, so they might pull somebody over and it's about giving a warning or some education. The other pieces where they're actually doing an arrest or whatever, that goes to Marion County Court. So what we're gonna truly be seeing is traffic court, so
That's what I was getting.
Yeah.
drunk driving, speeding, that kind of stuff, the liability is very low in those situations.
Well, I was reading in here about the extra costs involved with having Donald involved with that process.
So we've committed, the council's accepted the fact that our police will be there 20 hours a week. So almost a half time during the week. We've committed 20 hours to having an officer patrol there. And that's only when there's a second or even a third officer on duty. Then one will go to Donald, be able to come back to Hubbard and back up the full time here, or vice versa. If there's a call there, Hubbard officer will be able to go there and back them up. As time allows, again, if we have extra people, it may be a little more than 20 hours. Could be a little more one week, could be a little less the next. But generally speaking, they're gonna pay us 55,000 to cover the
That's
20
flat
hours a
fee.
week.
Yeah, that's a flat
Okay,
fee.
That covers the
Plus,
expenses of the
it
traffic
will be
court.
increased if. we
Well,
are
and then
overtime.
Yes.
in addition to that, the revenue that we'll make off the citations will easily cover the extra court if we need it. The judge would already be paid for during just regular operations of our own traffic court. The only piece where we're really gonna see an increased cost is increasing our full-time equivalent employee that's currently at 0.5 going to 0.7, or 0.07. So there's a little bit, there's a 0.02 increase in personnel costs that we're budgeting, which is really, I think, $5,000 a year, maybe a little bit more in salary costs, which will easily be offset by any revenue that we earn.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have some town halls coming up as well, both in Donald and in Hubbard, and actually up at North Marion School District as well. Kind of educating the public on what we're trying to do.
Because our officers are seeing the same kids at the school when they go to a school event. It's nice that they see them in Donald backing them up. And that's, as reserves, we used to work out at the school. And we got to know all the kids, even if they were in Hubbard, Donald, or Aurora. So we're literally bringing it back, just using the full-time officers to a better advantage.
And part of what we're seeing too is that there is criminal activity occurring in Donald that's being brought into Hubbard. And this is actually an opportunity for us to stop it before it even gets here. So that was one of the things that I was like, oh, if we could take care of that drug dealer, I'd be really happy.
But since it's a budget committee, the nuts and bolts also comes down to the fact that we do need to shore up funding for the police department.
Mhm.
So you're gonna see two things in this year's budget. One of it is a safety fee that will be on the monthly budget to help shore up that. Because we need to make sure we can adequately pay our officers so they don't continuously leave us. And they're not leaving us because we're a bad environment or a bad community. Canby pays a whole lot more. Let's just be honest, they pay more than what we can provide. The other opportunity that we're getting out of Donald, besides that revenue increase that will allow us to also shore up some of that funding without increasing fees more, is it does allow these officers the opportunity to expand out their options. Now they're not just Hubbard, they can go up and tech with Donald, it gives them the opportunity to have a little bit more excitement maybe on their job than just driving up and down 3rd Street and 5th Street and 7th Street. Not that that's exciting or anything.
Yeah.
But what we're trying to do here is find creative ways to also try to balance out that budget.
And that brings up when you arrest somebody in Donald, they will be coming here.
No, a couple options there. If we took them to jail, they would still go to Salem at the Marion County Jail. But oftentimes when we arrest somebody, depending on what the crime is for, we could just cite and release them as well with a court date to appear. They would just be given a criminal citation versus a traffic citation, for example.
And the council have made it clear that we don't want Donald to become like, remember how a few years back, Jervis had the thing, or even Aurora, people would drive to Aurora because it was a big speed trap. And we don't want to get a bad name because every time somebody comes to town of Donald, they're gonna get a ticket. So it's more about education, being seen, and just being a community member for them as well as us.
Yep, with a real focus too on engagement as well, doing those community events like the mayor talked about as well, and providing safety tips and.
The officers signed an extended year agreement, kind of like the NBA with a 4-year contract, 5-year contract. That gives them security with their income, but at the same time, it gives the city security with their employment for a certain amount of years, rather than a year-by-year contract.
Yeah, we don't.
We can't do that. So, so the officers are covered under a union or a collective bargaining agreement. And so something like that is not allowed any longer.
Yeah, we just approved the last one, I believe, until 2027.
Yeah.
So. Does tie the hands on what we can do in some areas. It's a benefit for them in some ways, and it's a hindrance in others.
Yeah.
So.
We used to be able to do that, but not any longer.
Are we done with the police department?
Okay.
My turn
So
now.
Mike, that's you.
Public Works, thank you for the other department heads for their wonderful, reports. What I'm gonna go through here is actually the work that we end up having to do in the Public Works Department. We have, 6 different departments that we have to deal with, which is water, and that includes treatment and distribution. We have wastewater, also there again, that includes treatment and distribution, or treatment and collections, because you don't just distribute wastewater, you collect it.
There's a spill.
Don't drink out of
Then we do parks, and then streets and sidewalks, building maintenance, and, public works vehicle maintenance. What we've got coming up this year, or in the next couple of years, is we've got a major water plant upgrade that we're dealing with. We're looking at, 3 major factors of that. The first one is to increase pressure throughout the community. We're gonna go from 43 pounds to 60 pounds. Pressure you'll see at your household faucets. We're gonna relocate one of our wells due to, damage to the casing that goes into the ground that we believe happened during the 93 earthquake. And then we're also doing some upgrades on the distribution piping to ensure that the increased pressures flow regularly throughout the city. The wastewater treatment plant, we also have a major upgrade being planned for that one. What we're finding right now is that our wastewater plant, the last upgrade was done in 2005. Before that, it was the tanks and stuff are from 1984, and the original tanks were built in 1968. So what we're looking at is very aged infrastructure that needs some level care to upgrade it to be able to serve the people of Hubbard. And on the wastewater treatment side of it, we're looking at solids handling, disinfection to the water that's being discharged into Mill Creek, aeration factors for actually removing the wastewater from the water, and our main pump station. So with the wastewater treatment, that's also something that we have a monthly report that goes out to both the EPA and the DEQ. So we've got a 15-page permit that is been submitted to us by the EPA that we have to follow for the things that we are able to discharge out into our receiving stream, which is Mill Creek. Parks, we have 7 parks and numerous amounts of right-of-ways and alleys that we have to deal with. The mowing alone in those parks takes one guy 3 days to complete. And that includes the 3rd Street Railroad tracks from the north end of town to the south end where the industrial lift station is located. So the main thing we've got we've got with the parks this year is we're doing a rebuild on the splash fountain. We're taking all of the electrical equipment that was in that vault and we're bringing it up above to the surface, because what we found out is that there's an issue with that equipment leaking. No matter how you work it, pumps leak. And if we weren't able to notice it, or our sump pumps failed in that vault, that would fill it up and we short out those motors. So we were going through more motors than we needed to per year the last 5 to 6 years. So if we bring it up above ground, the water leaks onto the floor, runs out the doors, we're good to go. We're not actually shorting anything out. That one should be completed within the next week. Building maintenance, the one thing we're dealing with right now, I call it doing battle with the furnace here in City Hall.
Amen.
Either too hot, too cold. So yeah, that's part of it. But we also deal with the painting and you know, the other maintenance items that go along with every building in the city has control of. Streets, of course, we're dealing with the sidewalk replacement program, and we are paving as we get the money to be able to do that. Also, we are starting up with our spring pothole patch. So if you drive around town, you notice that there's some potholes that have some white paint around them. Within the next week or so, those are all going to be filled.
Because small children are being lost.
And we do all of that with 4 operations employees and 1.5 administration. And we deal with, as I say, state documents, testing. We do some grant applications, monthly reports, and all of that.
You're stressed.
Yeah, we keep busy.
Is there room for more employees?
Oh, always. There's always is. We're forever shuffling assignments on, every morning they come in, I talk to the guys and we shuffle what we had talked about doing the day before with what things need to be done that particular day. So we might have a guy that's, okay, I'm gonna mow today, but no, you've got to go over and fix the water leak over on 4th Street. So yes, always use more employees. I feel that we're short by 2.
So as employees, like you're currently looking for a seasonal 1 FTE.
Yep,
Part-time, right now.
part-time. It's 40 hours a week, and it'd be from, well, whenever you get
40
them
hours?
hired.
40 hours. That's
So
full-time.
well, that's full-time.
That's full-time.
Yeah,
It's temporary full-time.
Okay.
full-time, part-time.
So it is that.
Full-time.
Full-time, part-time, so it's 40 hours a week, and it lasts approximately 3 months.
Couple runs.
Yes, pretty much. If
Amazing.
there's some other things that need to be done, we can pull them off and direct them that way, you know, maybe, scrubbing floors in the bathroom, painting bathrooms, painting buildings, that sort of thing, picking up garbage.
Now, constructing the new dog park, that's going to even add more to your plan.
Yes, it is.
So how are you gonna deal with that?
Just like we deal with everything else. We'll get to it, get it done.
Hopefully, we won't have as many breakdowns in the water fountain this year. But we'll have to get
Let's hope.
Could there be like a community, group of, volunteers that use the dog park on a regular basis, that you could form some type of group and say, have
Absolutely,
an-
that-
I mean,
We
That'd
got,
be a good conversation for a council meeting. But that's something, we're always looking for volunteers. I agree with Council Thomas, though, but, yeah.
Option number 9.
No.
You're increasing PSI,
yes,
43 to 60.
yes.
How old are some of the pipes in town? Because
Some of them date back to thirties.
could this create unforeseen issues with bursts? Creating more maintenance problems and
Normally on a ductile iron line, even if it's a, part of an aged infrastructure, it's able to take that type of a pressure increase in stride. Where you run into problems is the pipes they put in that are substandard. We've got some steel lines which we're looking at replacing. We've got some plastic lines, we've got some transite lines. We know where those possible break points are on the distribution systems themselves. Where the wild card is on that is service lines into houses, because some of those are 50, 60, 70 years old. So we are looking at a couple of options to where we'll have contractors that are working on a per hour basis, which we will agree to that we give them a call and go, hey, go out to 4th Street and we've got a broken water main out there and go fix it. And we're also looking at some options of possibility of replacing water lines the same way we are doing the sidewalk program, where part of that is reimbursed by the city. So yeah, we're looking into that. We know it's a possibility. It's not gonna go 4360, in 2.5 seconds. What we'll do is 43, 50, 55. And at some point, we'll go, okay, we'll do the evaluation on the pipes going, okay, we broke X amount of pipes going from 50 to 55. Maybe we'll just hold off on it a while and see what happens. So we may find that the happy place for our water pressure is 55 instead of 60 or 57 instead of 60, just because of that.
Yeah, and John, just to answer your question a little bit more, the city council is very concerned about just that. We've been talking about risk mitigation for some time.
Yes.
How to either pre-test the lines to make sure they don't burst, or how to deal with it beforehand to identify the risk areas, and of course, the slow bring up the pressure. At the end of the day, though, we're trying to also bring it up to where the fire department actually has adequate pressure out their hydrants, because right now it's not even at where it's supposed to be. Yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah.
But we'll all love it when we have a nice, good pressurized shower. The water bill is gonna go up dramatically.
Okay, so I can go ahead and continue with the presentation. So revenues were budgeted conservatively. The proposed budget includes estimated projections on previous trends or information provided by the League of Oregon Cities and the Department of Revenue. Property tax has been projected at a conservative 3% growth based on Oregon statute. There are two new revenue sources that we already briefly talked about: the public safety fee, which will go into effect July 1st. And the fee will be $10 per month and included on the monthly utility bill. And the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Donald, which is budgeted at $55,000 annually. And in addition, an estimated $25,000 for revenue for the traffic citations, which I do believe the $25,000 is a very low number, but again, still unknown. Personnel have been budgeted as fully staffed, which will actually occur effective May 28th. with the appropriate step increases allowed at anniversary dates for employees. COLAs were budgeted at 2% for non-represented staff, except for the sergeant, who was budgeted at 4% to mitigate salary compression with the officers. The represented officers were budgeted as negotiated in the collective bargaining agreement at 4%. The general fund impact for the COLAs and non-represented staff was just under $7,000. All other personnel costs which include medical, vision, and other benefits increases were at 10%, and other benefits at 7%. So there were significant increases in the benefits for employees. The overall materials and services budget increased as a result of an assumed 3.5% inflation rate over current cost, except for utilities. Utilities increased over 15.9% this current year, and effective July 1st, they will increase another 7%. Increases for auto liability of 5.5% were budgeted, and general liability at 7.5%.
So a great takeaway from that slide, though, is what we're dealing with is the inflationary pressure besides in our expenditures, which will go up quickly. It's not because we're wildly spending. We're trying to control
Everything's going up, so.
Yes.
It's understandable.
So as mentioned in the previous slide, property tax under state law increases by 3% annually. However, as development occurs or assessed values increase, the property tax may increase at a faster rate. The budget takes a conservative approach to property tax at the 3%. However, conversations with the tax assessor were assuming that it could be up to as much as 4%, which would be good for our budget. For fiscal year 2023-24, the tax roll total assessed value was $278,905,956, resulting in a $1.1 million for total tax distribution, with a delinquent tax distribution of $16,000. So the total property tax revenue projected for this upcoming fiscal year is $1,112,950. As economic development or housing developments occur, the property tax roll will increase, which will result in additional property tax revenue for the city. As I will discuss later in this presentation, overall revenues are not keeping pace with expenses. For example, this year, as I said, the utility rates have increased, and medical and vision and benefit rates have increased, where our revenues have increased generally about 4%. Overall, our medical benefits and our materials and services costs have increased between 10 and 15%. So personal services are complex. The overall increase is 8%, and that includes the 2% COLA for non-reps, the 4% for the represented. Additionally, the FTE was increased by a total of 0.52. That's the 0.02 for administration for courts and 0.50 in public works. The workload continues to increase with grant reporting requirements, multiple projects, additional court workload, and taking on the City of Donald Traffic Court and moving utility billing to monthly. Currently, there is an average impact to the general fund for the increase in FTE of $16,643. And that's just to the general fund. So I do want to emphasize, while that's the impact to the general fund, part of this increase, which is another 30,000, gets allocated across all the other funds that the city has. And I'll go into the allocation process shortly. Materials and services had a general cost inflation of 3.5. Additionally, there's an increase in some areas as a result of additional funding that was received for capital projects. So you see here on this slide that we had an 82% increase in capital. That is really associated with, two funding sources that we received. We received 1.7 million from, Business Oregon it's a short-term loan for our static water pressure project. That's repaid over, I believe, 30 years at a 2.63% interest rate. With that, we get to write off 280,000 of it, so it was a really good deal to move forward with the static water pressure. Additionally, we just got awarded, as I mentioned previously, 1.1 million from the state legislature for wastewater lift station. So that just increased our budget substantially. So it may look strange, but it's accurate. For the last few years, the projected operating deficit in general fund continues to grow. There is an abnormal spike in fiscal year 21-22 as a result of the ARPA grant funds that the city received. But not considering those funds, the graph actually reflects a steady increase in expenditures over revenues. The current fiscal year, the projected deficit at the beginning of the fiscal year was $232,000, with vacancy savings in the police department and several cost containment measures that were taken by staff. The city will end up having sufficient revenues to cover the expenditures. We anticipate that the ending budget will be $72,000 to $108,000 in the black, which is much better. It's about 300,000 more than we thought it was going to be at the beginning of the fiscal year. While the city was successful in this year in managing the operating deficit, and staff is confident that the projected operating deficit for fiscal year 24-25 of $129,131 will be mitigated through cost containment in materials and supplies, as well as overtime, and then the implementation of new revenue sources. And we have a trend of building permits, SDC improvements, and interest earnings coming in much higher than budgeted. We anticipate that the operating deficit or shortfall will be covered. This is likely due, so what I want to talk about as far as the deficit, so I talk about an operating deficit. If we don't come in within budget, we start digging into our beginning fund balance, which I'll talk about like a savings account. So we would be using our savings account to pay day-to-day expenses to operate as a city. And as you can imagine, there's only so much in your savings account, and year over year, you're digging into that. You don't have a savings account anymore, and then we can't operate. So this graph is right now projecting the operating deficit continuing to go in future years, which means we're digging into our beginning fund balance.
Then you have that spike, huh?
Well, so those are dedicated funds and one-time use, and that is one thing that, you know, grants are great, but you don't want to count on those for operational costs because they are one-time and go away.
One time said it.
Although that's what the school districts keep crying and say on sport is we had all that COVID money and now we don't have it. And so we gotta cut it.
Portland Public Schools. Suffering from that.
Oh,
So there's a change in how the city budgets contingency reserve and unappropriate ending funding balances that's reflected in this proposed budget. The proposed budget provides more flexibility for the governing body as projects get underway. And this is, and I changed how we budget in reaction to some of our major projects. So we have access to funds in case there is something that happens, and I'll talk more about that. Unappropriated ending fund balances and reserve for future expenditures limit when the governing body can access funds in an emergency. So the operating contingency is one of the most flexible accounts. contingency can only be budgeted in an operating fund under Oregon Administrative Rule. And an operating fund is defined as any fund that contains personnel costs, materials or supplies costs, or capital outlay. Contingency cannot be budgeted in a fund that's debt service or bond, for example, because those are fixed payments. We know what those are going to be. Contingency can only be at 15% of the requirements, which means it can only be 15% of budgeted expenditures. And it must be appropriated by the governing body before it can be spent, which means the city council and or budget committee would have to approve staff to spend those funds. The funds cannot be spent prior to receiving approval from the governing authority, and the appropriation has to be moved from contingency into an operational account before it can be spent.
AKA, we can't just sleight of hand money already.
Right. The proposed budget has again moved away from the reserves and the unappropriated ending fund balance as much as possible. So this gives an example. So reserve for future expenditures, they're carried forward to subsequent fiscal years. You cannot touch that money in a fiscal year. So say you have an emergency, you have $1 million sitting in reserve for future expenditures, you can't touch that. It is intended under Oregon budget law to be saved for the previous or the next fiscal year or subsequent fiscal years. And so I try not to budget money in there. The unappropriated ending fund balance, I know that previously the city has budgeted money in there. That is the most, well, it's the least flexible of any of the accounts. Unless we had like a tornado, a massive earthquake, a flood, those funds cannot be touched at all. Even if council is saying we need to access those funds, if there has not been a natural disaster under Oregon law, we cannot move those. So I have not budgeted anything in that line item for next fiscal year.
Been through enough natural disasters.
Ice storms and what?
Right, you never know what Mother Nature is going to throw at us. So so an example of what I just explained. So in this current fiscal year, it was 445,000 and change was budgeted in contingency. 879,919 was budgeted for reserve for future expenditures. Again, we can't touch that line item if something happens. And then we had 275,000 budgeted in unappropriated ending fund balance. So we would have 275,000 to use if we had a fire or flood or something like that. So again, for this next fiscal year, we have budgeted contingency in all of our operating funds, including our sewer construction and water construction funds. So our operational overhead allocation, day-to-day operational expenditures are allocated to departments. The operational costs are associated with functions such as payroll, budget, accounting, utility billing, to name a few. Many of the allocations actually come from the administration department that Director Noggle had stated. So the methodology for the allocation, personnel costs for general fund administration, city council expenses, and some public works staff are part of the allocation model. While general fund absorbs the overhead for court, community development, police, and parks, the streets and sewer and water funds transfer overhead into the general fund to assist with covering those costs. This allocation process has been revised a little bit from last fiscal year, or actually this current fiscal year. Adjustments were made for the city administrator position, my position, and the additional 0.02 FTE in the administration department A more in-depth study is going to be conducted as the city undergoes a rate study to ensure that the percentage of the allocation to each department or each fund is appropriate based on the time spent of the work being done. So for example, somebody's out mowing the parks, they're gonna be tracking that time and saying, okay, this person spends X amount of time in parks, we're gonna allocate their salary to that fund. So that, while we did do some cleanup for going into next fiscal year, rate study will be done for next fiscal year. So reserve fund, significant change with the reserve fund for next fiscal year. Historically, staff has determined what equipment and projects are to be budgeted for and what funds will be transferred from another fund into the reserve fund. And also what expenditures they're going to be making out of the reserve fund. The reserve fund is typically used for any sort of materials, equipment, or infrastructure that staff has deemed necessary for operations. And staff is asking, so this is the change, staff is asking for the budget committee's direction on how they want to spend the reserve fund. So right now in the reserve fund, we have $164,327. To assist the budget committee in prioritizing projects or equipment to save for or to proceed with purchasing, staff has completed the service option sheets, which are these sheets that are in the back of your packets. These sheets are new to the process, but we're hoping that it will be a tool that the budget committee can use to help us, one, understand and identify some equipment needs or some other needs for operations that we need, or what we need to save for in the future. So I'm going to have staff review their service option sheets real quick. I will start I have one, which has been on the table for years and years and years. So a new city hall, police department, this building currently acts as city hall and police department. There are several security concerns that we have as it relates to the police department. The vehicles are in an unsecured parking area. When we bring somebody in that's in custody, they walk out into a public area. There's not really adequate interview space. There's no holding cell. Our evidence locker is above a toilet. So we get concerned about DNA contamination.
Nice way to say it.
I'm just being transparent there. And so really, I mean, City Hall, I think overall, other than the HVAC issue, we have some recommendations that we'd like to move forward with. It's really the police department that is of concern, and the lack of security. The windows aren't bulletproof or secure in any way. So that's something that we think about. We had done a price estimate several years ago. There's a cost escalation tool that I worked with an engineer on. And so it will cost about $11 million to build a new facility. Not that I'm asking you to prioritize this, that this is just for information, that this is something that's always kind of in the back of our mind. So with that, I will turn it over to the police department.
All right, thank you. So we identified 4 different areas through the service option sheet. Number one, we just need to be prepared that there's a future countywide radio project that's going on. It's being led by Marion County Public Works. We're not sure when that will be completed. We're expecting maybe within the next 3 years. And when that time comes, there will be a significant amount of money, which is really unknown at this time as to how much we're going to have to contribute to those infrastructure needs for the countywide radio project to be able to operate off that system as well. which truly is our lifeline, obviously, when we're out there providing that service. By way of portable radios that we carry on our hip and or our mobile radios that we carry or that we have in our patrol cars when we drive around. Another service need moving forward in the future, in the interest of kind of aligning ourselves with the 6 pillars of 21st century policing with respect to technology and officer safety, would be moving forward in securing in-car camera system as well as body-worn camera systems. Also an interview room a recording system, which is required by a lot of other required to have when interviewing a suspect in a particular Measure 11 serious crime and whatnot that is defined in the statute. You just need to have that recorded room and the evidence storage too of those devices and whatnot. So that was one. Sorry, it's time for readers, but I'm fighting it. Sorry. Yeah. They told me when I got these new contacts that there were readers in them, but it's not quite working out. I paid for them. So anyways, number 3 is also looking at a fleet replacement program, preparing that we're making sure that in the future as our cars age, the equipment in those cars, the decals on the cars, that we have an appropriate replacement process in place. We also have like 6 officers right now, but we only have 6 cars. So if one goes down in a million different variety of ways, right, that it could go down, as it sits here in our unsecured facility, it could become a victim of crime. We could ourselves, the police department, our equipment, our patrol cars could be set on fire in a worst case scenario. The tires could be punctured, windows could be damaged, vehicles could be broken into, equipment within the cars could be damaged. And then as that occurs, you can just see the dollars starting to increase and whatnot as well. So if that happens, we now don't have enough vehicles to patrol and do basic police services.
Should I add a refrigerator?
Yeah.
And a lawn here pretty soon.
Yeah, so
we start to shake.
it does sound like that, yeah.
Oh,
So-
it's fine.
Yeah, one of the things we'd like to do is just prepare for that, be proactive ahead of time and have another vehicle eventually to where, if that vehicle was involved in a crash, for example, even if somebody hit us, and it took it out of service, or if the vehicle is going in for normal maintenance or whatnot, that way we would have a spare vehicle, a 7th car, if you will, that an officer could utilize while their vehicle is being repaired or the oil's being changed or some of those preventative type maintenance.
All right, let's talk about this police vehicle situation.
Sure.
When was the last time that our cars parked out in front of the building here was vandalized? When was the last time it was vandalized?
I'd have to research that.
So it's not recent.
Right.
I can't recall, right? We had that Crown Victoria sitting out there just gathering dust.
Right?
Yeah.
We sold that.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
Gathering
It's
dust.
been a while.
It has.
So that's, in my opinion, a low security concern. Now, the question is, so we have 6 vehicles, 6 officers. How many on duty at a time? We don't have 6 officers on duty at a time. We have 2, 3. At one time, so we don't have to have necessarily 6 or 7 vehicles that are operational at a single time. If we're having like 3 officers on duty patrolling, we need 3 vehicles, we need 4, as an extra vehicle. So we don't need necessarily 6 or 7 vehicles operational, at a single moment in time. We need 3 or 4, it's great to have 6 or 7, but we don't need 6 or 7, we need 3 or 4 for patrol and activity, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's great to think about those things, but when we're talking about dollars and cents, from the community, you know, we don't need every vehicle plus one running if we're not gonna be using them all. Oh, you know, yeah, one gets an accident, so we got 4 running, one gets an accident, we still have 3 more for the patrol officers. We don't need 7 running at that.
How many are getting close to the end of their life?
Yeah, so the oldest one in the fleet right now is a 1995. It's got 95,000 miles on it. I actually just had it go into the shop for the first time just because I wanted a complete overhaul to see where we're at with that vehicle and just have a thorough inspection completed. And happy to say it's rock solid.
Victoria,
It's actually a Ford Interceptor.
I am a Ford Police Interceptor.
Yes, sir.
Technician, so.
Oh,
Certified.
nice.
I was kind of curious.
Yeah, it's a SUV. It's a Ford SUV. It's a 2015. And then our next oldest one is a 2016 Chevy Tahoe with 35,000 on it. And it hasn't been thoroughly gone through yet, but it appears to be fine. And then the next 4 cars are the newest ones that Chief Rash was able to bring in 2020 and 2021. Those are also Ford Interceptors as well.
You should get quite an amount of them.
Yeah, that's the
They're
goal.
still very.
Mhm.
So I think what I would really like, when we talk about a fleet replacement schedule, is that we're using the reserve fund to pull out of our operational budget X amount of dollars to put in reserve for fleet replacement, so that when we do come to that end of life, then we have the money to do that. So that's kind of where I'm hoping we can get with police and public works and what that looks like, more of the kind of policy.
For some of the extra vehicles that they were talking about getting on, do we use bicycles or motorcycles?
We actually have a plan to start up our bike patrol again. As a matter of fact, these were bicycles that were purchased, I think, over 20 years ago by Councilor Autrich, as I heard from her staff.
It was a lot lighter back then.
And so I will say we have four bicycles still within the department. They were purchased over 20 years ago and they were top of the line. They're still very good. In fact, I just took 2 of them in on Sunday to a bike shop to be inspected to make sure they were safe for operation, because my plan is to get on them and start riding and doing bike patrol this summer in both Hubbard and Donald communities. The only concern though is that can only be done if we have like another police vehicle officer on duty who can respond rapidly somewhere. Yeah, because bicycling just won't get there fast enough. Plus we don't carry all of our
patrol.
Right. Yep.
So the tires like 3/4 inch.
Yeah. Yeah. So that'll be limited. And 2, not everybody has been trained on bicycle patrol, so there would be a need for that as well, which would be, obviously cost to send them through training and whatnot. And then, of course, the uniforms that go along with bicycle patrol as well. But we are definitely looking at doing that too. It's just a great community policing tool and a way to get out there and connect with folks and engage and stuff like that.
So I think one thing that I kind of want to look at too is he has a 4th option here in the service option sheet about remodeling. And let's see, do we know how much exactly it is? 15,000.
It's just over. I think it's just over 15,000.
Okay, so this remodel is something that I would like the budget committee to consider and take it out of our reserve fund to actually remodel, get the evidence storage area away from the restroom, and get it into a secure facility. So I think it's around 20,000 or something like
So how
that.
much room do you have? I mean, you've got that little area back
Yeah,
there.
I'd love to give you a tour. I appreciate the
Oh, I've
question.
been back there.
Okay, yeah, I think
Never-
we're
never-
so back in June of 2015, when the needs assessment was done at that time for the new city hall and police department, I believe, as I reviewed it here the last couple of weeks, I believe we have 1,125 square feet in the police department side of things. And so the evidence with respect to the temporary lockers, there's 4 of them in the bathroom that are, as City Administrator Waite mentioned, are right above the toilet within arm lengths of the shower. That's in that bathroom. And then the processing area is located just as you come inside the back door to your left. It's very small as well, where we would process and we'd like to move to.
And we actually have done pre-design work, so that's how we came up with the cost estimate. So the design work identifies where we could move things around and move the processing area. It creates an area where we can log evidence, store it, where we don't have to worry about DNA contamination. And so that's something that I'm looking to this committee. Can we allocate some funds from the reserve fund to pay for that renovation? Because as I said, we're a long ways away from $11 million for a new police department building. So this is something that I would like.
And if I may piggyback on that as well, this is an area of concern that has been pointed out to us by an outside entity and a person who came in and performed an audit on our evidence area several times in the past. We recently just had that evidence inventory conducted again, as is the best practice and industry standard in line with our accreditation standards. Anytime there's a change in leadership within a police department at the chief level, this should occur. And so we had that outside entity come in and perform the same evidence inventory. And this was yet again recommended by them.
When do you see doing those upgrades?
I'm sorry.
When do you see doing those upgrades?
Well,
If it's approved.
So this particular proposal that we just got from this, they're called Space Saver Specialties Incorporated. July 1.
The question, real quick, you've got 2 additional pages on here for secure windows, secure doors. Is that all included in that as well, or is that separate?
That's separate.
Is what it costs to do the windows, the doors, and the remodel?
So, the total, well, Vicki, I can let you speak.
It's okay.
No,
It's all kind of relevant.
So,
It seems to me like this is something that can be done if it's done.
Good.
One street, not layering it all up.
so 2055. So we're looking at about $70,000.
And out of 170.
164.
164, we leave you around 90.
If we did the upgrades, roughly how long would it be good for? With the town grows and with the rain on down, how long would we use it before we had to upgrade again? Just a rough idea.
Well, it's a great question. We're really operating within an area that we've outgrown probably many times over. The area that we want to remodel to is just really kind of the best option at this point, but it's probably really, it's not even ideal. But it's a quick fix to get it out of that bathroom.
We're talking about physically within this building, doing the remodel.
Yeah, repurposed.
And then if we move beyond that, we're gonna have to, we're looking at a new physical location. New building, $11 million.
Which requires
Well,
bond.
But that's to build. What about the building in Hubbard that is
For sure.
going to be conducive to what you need? I mean,
That's about $11 million.
Oh, that's still going to be.
Yeah, because I mean, if we talk about truly a police department, we're talking about a secured, screen gated area for parking, bulletproof, reception windows, locker rooms. I mean, evidence rooms that are much larger than this and more secure. And then looking at just, the armory and a squad room, interview rooms, holding cells. I mean, it's, the thing about this renovation is a lot of the, like the cabinets and stuff like that we purchase now, if we ever down the road, we can bring that with us.
Yeah, I think in terms of looking at a new facility in the future is once we've expanded the city, brought on the new houses and dilute that tax hit that everyone's gonna have, that's when the bond manager can go out and try to get it approved. That would always be my.
There's really nothing conducive that would be coming on the market that we could cover to potentially remodel. It's just, it would have to be a groundbreaking.
So going back to it, so it's, we're not really looking at, we're looking at 70 to do it right.
Yeah, we did
Yeah,
it
So we should
everything.
probably set it for 70 instead of 20.
Mhm.
Which I guess could cover those other two things for you, sorry.
I think all of the police needs are important, right? I mean, saying that we don't need 6 cars because we want to have 6 officers on, if one police pursuit could wipe out 3 cars. If 3 people are on duty, then we have 3 cars. And by the logic of that, they haven't been vandalized in the past, well, no police officer's been shot in Hubbard, so should we not wear bulletproof vests and carry a gun? I just,
Good point, cost savings, right?
doesn't make sense, but
Yes.
in any event, they're all important. This is one of the only police departments I've seen that's not secure. And we're on that line of like one thing happening and serious consequences. So anything we can do to secure the building and the police and meet the needs, especially as we're growing into other cities, I'm all in favor of, and I think they're super important.
Yep, amen to that.
I also would like to add, I think this will help as we're looking at bringing in seasoned officers. They're gonna see, oh, it's actually safe to be in our break room. Like that's sort of a big deal for somebody that knows what they're doing. And also just that we knew 17 police cars were burned.
Yeah.
In like
Oh,
the
yeah.
last week or two.
15 of them.
At a secure facility.
Yes.
Yes.
15 is
So-
security. So
Those same people in Portland are going up and down 99 in Salem. They see our police cars like, oh, easy target. I mean, I think it's important to make sure we're taking care of the stuff that we have, and it does cost money, but that's part of the budget, so.
Not that you're not important.
Oh, he hasn't asked yet.
I took up another.
So I do want to ask the budget committee, so as I'm putting together approved budget, is that approved for 70,000 out of the reserve fund to be dedicated to these security projects related to police and security of the police department, city hall?
You have my vote.
I'm in favor of that.
Should we make a motion and vote on
Yeah,
it?
can we have a
Yeah.
motion for that?
Well, so I will make note of that, and then when we get towards the end,
Okay.
when we vote on the budget, if you can say with,
As a-
yeah, approving that, yeah, thank you.
I'm used to it. Vicky's always telling me, as a.
Okay, so that does leave Public Works, they have one more request.
Yeah, our request is, fleet replacement for 2 vehicles that are over 20 years old. One is a 2003, the other one is a 2004. And what we're finding is that, they're just falling apart. I mean, we've got ones that need to have seats replaced, we need to replace a brake, engine components, the sensors are going bad, floorboards are rusting out. It's just time for those 2 vehicles to be replaced. Now, in Public Works, we don't do a rotating type of a situation like the police department does. We buy one, we run the wheels off it, we replace. Our newest is a 2020. It's a Chevy half-ton. Works out great for us. Other than that, the next one would be the one I drive, which is a Chevy crew cab with a winch on the front, it's 4-wheel drive, but it's also heavy enough that we can tow up some of our bigger generators. Other than that, the next one down the line is a 2012. And then we've got 2005 and 2006. And we're asking for replacement of the 2 older.
I saw in here that we were wanting a crew cab.
Extended cab.
Okay. So how many people, extended cab meaning jump seats in the back?
Right, crew cab would work, extended cabs are a little bit less expensive. And what we're finding is that it gives them room to put stuff inside that's not real conducive to like a toolbox, rain gear, papers, meaning like paper towels, gloves, changes of clothes, that sort of thing. And it gives the space behind the driver's seat gives them that option to be able to carry those.
Don't need to be nitpicky, but would not the seat beside them carry those things?
And that's the way they do now, but if you need to do something with somebody else, you either end up taking 2 trucks or you clean off the seat real quick and somebody piles in.
So there are times that
Yeah.
2 people go in one vehicle.
That's a reason for my crew cab, because there's times when we've got state employees or federal employees or even engineers that just hop in here, we just take 1 truck and I get 4 people in it.
We're not replacing the beds in the truck to make them so you can have storage within the bed. You know, the ones where you lift the side of them.
Yeah, you're talking utility
Yeah.
type trucks. Yeah, that's possible too, but the way you're looking at it now is that single cab pickups are more of a rarity than extended cab.
Out of curiosity, you're requesting the trucks, requested last year as well. How are we doing on other things, like the fuel storage location, other areas that we might be looking for improvements? So do we have that set? Are the generators all good to go?
Generators are good, except for the one that was provided with the rebuild in '84. That's kind of falling apart, but we'll have a spare with the water plant rebuild, because we're replacing that generator. So we're looking at possibly putting that 150 kW on a trailer that we can take anywhere. It'll have enough juice in it to light up anything we get going.
And all the wells, the pumps, or the generators, good in all the different wells?
Yep, the only one we don't have at this point is industrial lift station. And that is part of the upgrade for that.
Is there any limitations on what the reserve fund could be allocated for outside of these?
No.
Any limitations on how we might be able to allocate additional funds from the reserve fund? Out of just what we're seeing here. I believe seems to be already consensus for the police department remodel. No doubts on that.
So, question then, so it's a 2003 and a 2005,
Yes, 2004,
2000, so both of them are 20 plus years.
yes.
And how many miles do they have on? Roughly?
Uh,
1,000?
No, you're talking public works in a small community. You're talking on both of them. I haven't checked it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're about 50. What you get is a lot of idling, a lot of going slow, so you're not putting a whole lot of miles on them. What you're putting on is the wear and tear of short distances.
So, yeah, thinking back in the day for, if the exhaust system doesn't warm up enough to, get rid of the moisture, we got moisture and things can rust out. Exhaust system.
Yes.
Don't drive it long enough for it. So, well, that has been reduced over time. Yeah, if you don't drive your vehicle long distances, you can have moisture removal. Exhaust system. There's combustion.
And oil.
Yeah.
One of the more things oil does.
Yeah, and when combustion, one of the major byproducts is H2O, water. And if you don't warm up the engine and exhaust system long enough, that does tend to rust and break the engine and exhaust system down. So, okay.
It seemed like low, I know you just said, it's the wear and tear of the short mileage and idling and all of that. Still, that's such a low, is your maintenance cost becoming?
Yeah, the maintenance cost is becoming a problem because even with the low mileage, you still have the age on it. So we've got the 2004, we're kind of putting off to see what happens here, but the seats need to be replaced, the headline is, collapsing, and that one is also a service truck, so we're having problems with holding the bed. And, the protective coatings on the inside of the beds, they're wearing off. And that's the one that we're having problems right now with water leak, through the radiator. And the radiator needs to be replaced along with both of the hoses, but we're kind of waiting to maybe not have to spend that money if we're allocated something.
Will you
something
keep
there.
those two vehicles in a semi-running condition? And if you were to get a new vehicle or two new vehicles?
We would, keep one of them, we'd auction one of them. And the reasons behind keeping one is we would keep it for like the paint truck and doing those jobs that just absolutely beat up a truck. With the painting, you get slops all over the beds and that sort of thing. So, yeah, why use one of the new ones when you've got something that you don't feel too bad about using?
Yeah.
So
I got a question for the two vehicles that we have, one already replaced. Those vehicles, do you know when the last time suspension and brakes was done?
Yeah, I believe, about 5 years ago.
Okay.
The shocks and brakes,
We're getting new.
yeah.
Is it fair to say there's four people in public works that are driving trucks regularly?
Actually 5, because you have one for administration at this point. And it comes, a necessity because, with everything we've got to do, a lot of times we're all going in a different direction. And that also gives administration, the ability to say, take our monthly sample from the wastewater plant into sale.
So would it be fair to say we need one, but we want two?
Yeah, we're asking for 2, but we really do need one. And if we don't get them both, we'll come back next year for the next
Just
one.
like you did this year from
Yeah.
last year.
I think they need one. I think they need one. Personally.
Has the total analysis test been done on your engine for those trucks?
No,
How many total trucks do we have right now at Public Works? The 2003, 2004.
the 12, the 18, and the 20. So we've got 5.
Does that include the crane truck?
No, that does not include the tank truck. You're right. We do also have the tank truck.
It's a lot of cars. I still have a question though, and I brought this up last year as well. We don't necessarily need a gas-powered car for a small community either. Did we not need one there to plug it in and run it around as an electric? Maybe get a tax credit or incentive from the state? Have you looked at that at all?
There are grant opportunities, though, that we could look at getting a charging station and potentially an electric vehicle. Again, energy, conservation, there are a lot of grants out there. So that could be an administration vehicle.
Yeah, that allows it in a lot of cost.
It would, especially in fuel, because fuel is also.
Right.
Fuel's the problem.
What about, off the vehicle topic real quick, from Public Works perspective, windows in the city hall, have they been replaced yet?
They have not.
Okay, is that something that we could allocate funds from the reserve fund to do? Because I know we've got a moldy window, literally when you walk up, it's pretty bad looking.
Yeah, we could do that.
I mean, I would rather see us try to take care of the city hall the best we can, you know, with some additional funds, especially replacing windows that potentially could be a hazard or a health problem. I know we need to get a truck. I just don't know if I'm ready, at least my side, to vote for a new truck this year. I would like to see if we can investigate potential grant options, et cetera, especially on electric vehicles. Yeah. Even if it's health.
But would the grants cover the charging station and everything?
Yeah, they do.
We've also, I know I've had chats with our commissioners as well as ODOT and Sean Lake about seeing what we can do to get grants to try to put charging stations in downtown.
So let's only take a minute here. So, currently we're kind of looking at funding the police department's Northwest, and what was that dollar amount? 70,000.
I'd probably put it between 70 and 80 to be safe. About
16, so there's about 84,000.
Was that the window you were talking about, one of the ones that?
And then the vehicle, they're 45,000.
Yeah, 41.
41,000. So if we were to fund one vehicle, that would still leave us, 43,000.
Let's see, no, well, you got a custom on here, yeah. If you're looking at 51,000.
Still just 37.
What if we looked at funding half of it this year? With the guarantee that next year we'd fund the other half.
So it's 33,000 for
Could we have
windows
those,
and,
look at professionally do a lot of analysis test,
so.
see if they're salvageable?
So even if we fund one vehicle along with that, sort of 80 for the police department, 51,000 for the other vehicle, the one vehicle for the public works, still leaves $33,000 to, that's more than enough for those neighborhoods. So
Sure, but my other question would be also, what about playground equipment? How are we looking on that across the city? I know we're looking at Riverman's Park to replace playground equipment there. I'm assuming the rest of the playground equipment throughout the city is probably aging as well.
it's aging. I know the Terry Park is relatively new, the Winchester Park's relatively new, Walnut Park's relatively
I
new.
think Barnsley's pretty new, isn't it?
Barnsley's probably a good 20, yeah, we're probably 20 plus years on Barnsley.
So it's getting.
But the kids are still bouncing on.
I don't want them to
I've been
cut
told,
themselves
I've been told that the slider's not good
We don't
anymore.
have to spend it all.
Yeah, that's the other question is we could also, again, we don't need to spend every penny.
Yeah.
It'd probably be better to
And I
use
think
them.
part of it too, I mean, I think, yeah, if you all decide to fund one truck, I really wanted to sit down and develop a fleet replacement schedule, what that looks like. And then come back and say, okay, I recommend, given this fleet replacement schedule, that we place X amount out of all these other funds into our reserve fund to fund vehicles.
Yes. I guess if I was to take off my mayor hat, my budget committee hat, put on my taxpayer hat, I am gonna scoff at Public Works having 6+ vehicles in a department with 4.5, 5 individuals. I'll be honest with you. And I think most taxpayers out there are gonna be the same way. I'm not saying we shouldn't replace the ones that are going bad. We should keep the fleet up, but again, then we need to be wise. Will that car, that truck still be usable in 15 years? If the fuel, I mean, is now the time for us to start looking for alternatives for us in terms of a gas-powered fleet to an electric fleet or a hybrid fleet? Let's be honest, gas prices are gonna continue going up.
There's gonna be a
And that's where I would really like our administration department, not putting my mayor hat back on. I would really like to see us come up with an idea of how are we going to move forward replacing vehicles, both police vehicles as well as public works. I'd rather be smart about spending the money. We just spent a lot of money a few years ago on buying the one truck, the lift truck, the crane truck, thank you. If I can come up with the word. And that was a huge investment. And oftentimes it's just parked. And I'm afraid that one's gonna need preventive maintenance soon as well. Because you can't just leave a diesel truck parked for a long period of time. Diesel fuel is bad.
Yeah.
Usually. Yeah. So that's my 2 cents. I'm only one person on this committee though. And that's why we're having these discussions. I think we're all in agreement with at least the remodel on that. I do think we need to replace the nasty windows in this city hall. It looks really bad when you walk up and you see mold just growing inside a window because the seals are bad. That shouldn't be too expensive. But I agree with Sean, or Administrator Wade. It's okay to also keep some money in reserve. We also have harder times coming up the next few years. You can see it on one of those pages right here. Right, I'm seeing this dip in revenue coming in, and I'm highlighting that as a concern.
Yeah, I see that. Yes.
Right, I would rather keep money in reserve for what is the unknown to still come.
And there has been times that we've, as a council, had to put the brakes on something and tap into the reserve, like the
Yes.
G Street project that we had to fund out of our pocket when we said, well, wait a second, it's not going well. We absorbed the cost on that, but that had to come out of something.
So I would rather still keep some in reserve, at least that's my thought. Again, we're already trying to control overtime next year, we're trying to control the budget wherever we can. And I think we should extend the service life of anything we can, possibly. But at the same time, I do think we should invest in things like I'm gonna hug on those windows. But every time I walk up that thing and I see that moldy window, it just drives me absolutely mad. You have to have it replaced.
Is that in your section? So that,
It's, you'll see it when it walks up, or even the older windows all around the
So-
facility.
Where the sign, the open close sign.
a safe window for you guys, or to start paying your hospital bills when you start getting infections and things. Um,
That's my 2 cents, by the way.
The bee in my bonnet is I like to see us getting in the 21st century with the body cameras.
Yes, that's another big one. I think that would be a high priority as well.
I mean,
He's working on it.
Thank you. Yeah,
There might be some grants, hopefully.
yes, as a matter of fact, July 1, CIS is gonna open up some. And
okay.
we're over, like that was one of the first questions to the mayor at Donald asked at their work session. Is if they have them, so.
It's becoming
I'd
imperative for
like
your
to see
safety.
you have
for a lot
all
of
very new vehicles, but I'm kind of leaning that way too, that I'd like to see, what we can see with an EV, that would be your administration vehicle. And then maybe next year come back if we can get that one, vehicle this year for you. Then next year, take your worst vehicle, replace it. Start a reserve one for next year,
There'd be some.
so that you know it's a for sure thing next year.
Vehicle technology in
Yes.
the next 3 years. I mean, massive.
They have to be
They don't
multi-fuel.
have technicians ready for it yet. That's how big these changes are gonna be.
Aren't they supposed to be multi-fuel?
Yeah, Toyota's gonna be introducing an electric truck here real soon. It's gonna be very affordable. So I'm not pushing for them, but I'm just saying, the Chinese are ready to dump electric trucks here. They're just waiting for the approval, so prices for vehicles are gonna come down a little bit and the technology is gonna go this way. And so we want to take a slower approach to that.
An electric car, you don't have to idle, just better.
Yeah, electrics don't have to idle. They're gonna last a lot longer, way less maintenance.
I'm probably showing my stupidity here, but it's a truck. Trucks are work vehicles. What will that pay, your workload in that truck if you're carrying rock, say, to put into one of those in front of somebody's house that needs rock or whatever? Is that electric vehicle? Is that,
Oh, yeah,
Want
electric
to
has
be
more
able to-
power than gas or diesel, and it's.
It's more powerful
Yeah,
than
oh, yeah,
power?
and at the flip of the switch. It's 100% horsepower at the flip of the switch. There's no power curve like you have with a fuel vehicle.
Distance sucks, right?
The other thing is,
Small town.
our release there
Yeah.
is 7.7 liters, that may not do it. If you're talking about hauling rocks and things, we've got one, we're not happy with what's hauling what we haul. So I take a slower approach, but it's really different.
Okay, so where are we at?
I think wait on the truck. We'll ask him to see if we can investigate a fleet replacement project.
Yep, absolutely.
it's a
And
reserve for future replacements?
exactly. And I'll also be looking at grant opportunities for any electric. So that will be coming back. I'll put that on my issue tracker.
But do we have funds allocated currently in the current budget though to replace at least the windows that are in need for home city?
So I don't, we did, so they were budgeted last fiscal year, or well, this
This
fiscal
fiscal
year. They have not been re-budgeted for this fiscal year.
Can we still spend it this year or we've already exhausted the funds for that?
Can we get it done this fiscal year? I think,
There's special order.
Okay, so we can carry that forward though. Is it carried forward?
Is
No.
the money still there?
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Thus, can we carry it forward?
well, it kind of is, yes, but it turns into an ending fund balance that rolls into our beginning fund balance. So if you want to say, okay, I'm good with, taking some of our beginning fund balance towards purchasing those, we can do that.
I do think we need to get those windows replaced. Again,
You're
I'm just one
talking
voice.
about those windows, not the entire building?
Well, hopefully, actually, if we can get them all done, we could probably do it in a package deal. I think these are still the original windows, if I'm not mistaken.
And to replace these, it's a custom job.
Yeah, they have to order it. So when we replaced the siding, one thing we did not replace was the windows at the time.
So. A window?
I believe that the, one quote between we,
8 to 12 window, $1,200 a window, looking at the size of them.
it's more like $5,000. or
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Yeah.
they're expensive.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why it's not.
I'm 5 years behind them. So.
Yeah, we just replaced two in our house. They're extremely expensive.
But again, take care of what you got, because we don't know when we're gonna get another one. Any,
So then with that said, if we took the windows, the cost of the windows out of the reserve fund, that would absolutely deplete it. Do you want me to take funds out of the beginning fund balance to cover that?
Let's try it. Let's do like part this year, part next year.
we can break it up, maybe. I don't know. If the council's gonna-
So let's get the bad windows, the ones that have the mold going in. You know, so is that 1, 2, 3 windows? Let's get rid of those first.
But do we get a break if we buy all of them now?
Yeah, good question.
You're gonna do it too. That's good.
Problem is, you're gonna see a 3.5% increase from inflation every year on that.
Then if you get two different contractors, you get two different warranties
Windows.
and two different issues. So
I would rather see if we already had budgeted funds for it, let's just take it from the prior
Yes.
and then cover the delta, if you would, with the reserve. That was so, let's see if we can't keep some funds in reserve, or we'll go into next year. Sorry, the next budget cycle, which I think all of you get to be on again.
I'm experienced on.
And then we can hang out on that.
I'll be bugging, come on, give me budget.
Also include, siding and trim and paint to put it back the way it was.
Yeah, that will be included. Yeah, we're not gonna put in a window and then have it
Yeah,
leak.
leave it out.
I didn't know if they included that in them
They did initially.
and match the color and all that stuff.
So I think we beat the reserve fund topic then.
And let's
So-
hang out with the original one.
So it'll just be, I'll just have to have you help when we get. to that.
I'll help you make the.
Okay. So are we good to move on, Chair?
Yeah.
Are you guys looking at me? Where are we at?
Okay, well, I've got to finish my presentation real quick and then.
Okay.
Okay, so, there are 4 objectives that I wanted to achieve with this budget. One, develop a process that takes a more strategic approach to the reserve fund process, which we just did. Thank you very much. Reduce line items that have trended under budget year over year. So there were some significant cuts that I made in the police department budget. In particular, there was a little padding happening. And then also reduce some overtime. Reviewed the personnel allocation like we talked about earlier. And then wanted to seek and implement other funding opportunities, which City Council has made direction on as far as the public safety fee and the agreement with the City of Donald. Again, this next fiscal year, I'm really going to be focusing heavily on economic development and seeking other development, both retail, commercial, and what other housing we can get going. So that will increase our property tax and other revenue streams to help offset the shortfall. Although the proposed budget is not structurally balanced, as I said before, I believe that the 129,131 will be able to be mitigated through different cost containment measures. Additionally, I think making sure that we manage overtime and make sure that mistakes don't result in rework and added costs for materials and services, and make operational efficiencies, we can contain the costs to lower the budget deficit and come in the black. While I believe these steps can bring the city into structural balance this next fiscal year, this is not a long-term solution, and all excess funds and any additional reductions will result in a service reduction in the future. So what that means is that if we don't figure out other revenue streams or increase revenue, that we will have no choice. I'm going to say next time, it will result in layoffs. I have cut our materials and services budgets to the point that we would not be able to operate to pay our utility bills and stuff like that. So any further reductions would be a reduction in personnel. So with that, we are now at the question period of my budget overview. So if there are any questions that you have in the materials that were provided or my message, I'm happy to answer those now.
As the new guy, I have a few questions.
Certainly.
I'm gonna read these and you can just answer them via email if you want, if it's something everybody knows.
Okay.
Why is the fiscal year 25 proposed grant funding projected from the 2024 amended funding instead of the previous historical mean? You have the 22 or 21 that has 420,000, 450,000,
Mhm.
and then the 24 is 3 million or something like that.
I guess I need to see.
Page 9.
That's because we got all those grants.
Grants.
Right. But are those guaranteed for the?
Yes. Yes.
Are guaranteed?
Yes.
Okay. That's,
Thank goodness.
Good question. That's all magic revenue.
okay. Like that one. You made this one email this to me. What encompasses the miscellaneous fund? It's
So-
1.4 something million. I thought that was pretty significant.
So miscellaneous fund as far as where.
That's on page 8.
I will have to double check that. We budgeted, what is in there? I'll have to double.
You
check
have
that.
proposed on page 20, 64,000.
Huh?
So if you go to page 20, your miscellaneous, that's miscellaneous revenue, though.
It's probably, what that probably is a combination of miscellaneous revenue that we receive citywide. So it's not just one source, it's multiple miscellaneous revenues that are budgeted in administration and police. I can get the breakdown for you of exactly what that is.
Right. I'm just considering the amount there is pretty considerable
So,
compared to the title.
right,
The
and
description doesn't match the amount.
right, I agree with you. So there are certain things that happen, like we sold a vehicle that went into miscellaneous revenue. We got training dollar reimbursement from the city of Canby for one of our officers that went over there. That was almost $20,000, I think, that went into miscellaneous revenue. So we don't have, I'm gonna say, general ledger accounts for each type of revenue source. So some of those get lumped in, but I can send the whole budget committee a list of what is considered in there when we're building our.
1.16.
Yeah, we have quite a bit of miscellaneous, yeah,
This is some about banking fees.
it is. Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I have one quick question for you. Page 20. Sorry. On your proposed budget for 25, on fines and fees, that's a substantial increase. Do you think we're gonna be collecting up many more fines and fees?
I gotta find my page. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't write it down.
23 was an increase.
Is that from Donald?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna take a crap, I don't know. I saw that, and it just, it's, if you look at the history, it's 263, 244, 240, and it jumps up dramatically. And if my old MBA class, it's anytime you see something shoot up that high, it's just, I should ask.
So let me look at my roll up. That'll get me.
It's huge.
Yeah, I can understand the licensing and permits jumping because of the money coming in for that IGA.
Oh, okay, so I'm sorry, I just had, so it's the new public safety fee.
Oh.
Sorry.
Ouch.
Recruit our public safety team with a spot.
Just.
Fine.
Fine.
All right, thank you, that answers that question.
Well, you may be fined if you don't pay the fee.
Right.
Well, you're part of it, huh? But, okay, that answers that question. Thank you. It just seemed out of character to me, and I was concerned that I don't want us to see that, so budgeting something that we don't have planned.
No, absolutely. Any other questions?
Did we take a hit this year? And we were able to overcome that whole forgiveness of fines, money owed? Remember, that was.
Oh, from the governor's remission order?
Yep.
What we had to write off?
Were we able to overcome that, or?
So I need to clarify there. So part of it, I'm gonna say no, but it's kind of twofold as well. We haven't been, so when I look at our court revenue, it has been lower than normal because we've been down to officers and not issuing citations. So
Yeah.
to truly get the impact, I don't think we'd be comparing apples to apples. But I'm gonna say that was a hit, right? What was it?
Between the two remission orders, wasn't it like $50,000?
Yeah.
$50,000 between the two remission orders we had to write off.
Mhm.
That's-
Do we have anything else coming up like that? We're gonna
I
forgive
have not-
everybody's
I have not.
water bills for the next 2 years.
Well, you just never know. I mean, I have not heard of anything more, but you know, never say never because we know, kind of how things work and stuff.
It's just unpredictable. That's the unknown.
Yeah.
unknown.
It is. You just don't know what she's gonna do.
I was
I
surprised.
mean,
I was surprised on the second one too.
Yeah, we didn't expect the second one. We thought it was just gonna be a brown, and then when Kotek did it, that was totally.
Not a surprise. You didn't say that, I said it.
But I do know there are some changes in some things, like we have to reinstate people now when they start making a payment plan, where we used to be able to wait. And that's a law that came down. We used to be able to wait until they paid the whole fine off. Now, once they start making payment plans, we have to reinstate them. And then if they stop making payment plans, then we can.
It doesn't matter what dollar amount they pay, if they
Yeah.
pay something.
They can make
Officer
15,
stated to us to reinstate and to
Yes, that's
the
There
time,
time, yeah, staff time to do it.
yeah, and
And-
staff time is a lot more to maintain the records and double check everything.
Mhm. So, when you go to suspend somebody and you send it to the DMV, it takes anywhere from 60 to 90 days for them to suspend. So it gives you this vicious
and
cycle.
then they come back after the 59th day and make a $2 payment.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
You rescind.
That's okay.
It's, but yeah, it's very challenging.
Opportunities.
So I'll wait
Okay.
till, Mr. Nash gets back, but so miscellaneous revenue contains several different things. So we have interest income, refunds. We have a lease, for water tower in there, which actually is a significant portion. There's a,
So good.
yeah, and the Verizon lease, so how those lease agreements work. We did not budget them in their own separate general ledger account, so we put them into miscellaneous revenue. So it's kind of and I'll repeat that so you can do that. In our miscellaneous revenue, we have multiple things that go in there, so there is some miscellaneous stuff, one-off things, but we have a Verizon lease agreement that's in there. A water tower lease agreement that's in there, some, that our interest income that we're earning off of our pool account that's currently has a balance of 8.5 million. We're earning about $32,000 a month on that, interest, so that's part of it. So there's multiple things that are going into it to make it the 1 million. that.
Okay,
Water towers lease.
Yeah, all the.
Well, all the cell stuff around it. Yeah, we make money off of them, their stuff. Yeah, we lease our.
and we also get this PGE contribute for.
So that is separate, that is considered a franchise fee, and they pay us approximately 130,000 a year for that, and we have a whole list of them, there's a detailed list in there of what they pay.
Get all back in Halifax.
Sorry.
Okay, so, public hearing. Anybody
I-
have any questions?
I like it, I like it.
Okay,
Wait, are you done?
No,
oh, you're not? Oh, sorry.
so, the next slide we're on. Okay, so public hearing for fiscal year 2024-2025 proposed budget. The city is presenting a proposed budget of 16.15 million. The budget is balanced and complies with Oregon budget law. And now we open the public hearing.
Yeah, there's a script.
Okay,
Yep.
Chair will open the
Business.
public hearing on state revenue sharing.
So are we on stage?
Are we doing that?
Yeah, state, yeah, we haven't done the state share revenues. So we're done with the agenda topic
Well-
number 4, right? Budget review and discussion.
So she just opened the public hearing for state shared revenues under public hearing,
That's right.
correct? And so then the next thing would be presentation by the budget officer.
Yes, so cities that provide certain services such as police service, street maintenance and construction, sewer and stormwater services, utilities and planning and zoning are eligible to receive a share of what is referred to as state shared revenues. These revenue streams consist of gas tax, cigarette tax, liquor tax, marijuana tax, and the revenues are estimated funding streams from the League of Oregon Cities and are provided annually. The city of Hubbard provides all of these services referenced above, which means the city is eligible for the revenue streams. The revenues are budgeted across 4 funds. However, the gas tax is only budgeted in the street and street construction funds as they are dedicated revenue sources and may only be used for street and or sidewalk projects. I do want to note that if you're comparing the intergovernmental revenue on this slide with the general fund detail sheet in your packet, the numbers are not going to match. Shared revenue is budgeted in the intergovernmental revenue category, which includes any other revenue that is earned from an intergovernmental agreement. There is a $55,000 difference from this slide to the detail sheet as a result of the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Donald for policing services, which is not considered a shared revenue, but still falls within the intergovernmental revenue budget category. And that ends my presentation.
Any questions regarding that? Okay, any comments? Okay, we'll close, the public hearing on state revenue sharing. And we'll go on to open for public hearing on the 24-25 budget.
So as stated, the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget is 16.15 million. We will need an amendment to how the budget has been presented or proposed.
You want me to make that now?
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to amend the current budget as is presented to include line items for the Hubbard Police Department reconfiguration and remodel. The addition of secure doors for the Hubbard Police Department. The addition of the secured windows for both the administration wing as well as these would be for interior, as well as for the police department. And application, I won't say application, but for the carry forward of the city hall exterior window replacement from the 2023-2024 fiscal year budget and the delta of cost changes between that fiscal year and current fiscal year to be made up from reserve funds. Does that work?
Yep.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second on the amendment there. Do we need to vote on that now, or does that just go into the overall budget at this point?
So we vote finally on make the motion on the budget on the
As
next,
amended.
on this slide.
Perfect.
So there's two motion, well,
I guess, can we not just say I would make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2024-2025 proposed budget as amended?
yeah, that would be fine.
Second. Are we still?
I'm sorry.
Say all.
So we need to.
All those in favor,
We need to.
say aye.
We got to close public hearing first.
Oh. I am closing, the public hearing on the budget.
And now do I need to make that motion again?
So first we need to, make the motion on the property tax. So the first box.
Simple enough. I'll make a motion to impose the property tax levy rate of 3.9772 per 1,000 of assessed value. Okay, now we have a motion and a second, so you would say all those in favor.
All
say
those in favor, say aye.
aye. Those opposed, say
All those that are opposed.
okay. Next one, I will make a motion to approve the fiscal year 2024-2025 proposed budget of
As amended.
okay. 16,154,317 as amended.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Next.
We are, approve the tax levy rate.
We did that.
We did that. We did the budget. I'm a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. So I want to thank everybody. This has been an amazing conversation, group effort. I feel really good about where this budget is going. So thank you so much for your time. This is amazing.
We'll second that. Preparation, everyone coming into it, the active discussion. And hopefully everyone can leave with a better understanding of at least how the city is trying to allocate our funds. Hopefully not loud speaking. Please spread the word. As you can see, we don't really have a whole lot of participation.
Yeah.
Let's people to.
It's live stream as well. Thank you, Mr. Manager, especially because I know you are new to here. So. I learned a lot. Thank you. Renee, we'll drag you in next week. And this. Yeah. And you're the